So today, a very good evening all. So today's topic is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So we know Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is popularly known for bringing up the Indian constitution that is being followed and for the adoption of the Indian constitution. And he is famous as the father of Indian constitution. B.R. Ambedkar is a very rare combination of knowledge and his commitment for a social change. And he is a philosopher and a social revolutionary and an economist and a politician. And also, he's a sociologist, educationist, anthropologist, professor, historian, journalist, and a Buddhist. And also, he's a great writer as well. So, his coming to his life sketch, he was born on 14th April 1891 in a town very close to Indore, a garrison, the capital of Indore princely state at that time. So, which is been incorporated at that central province, which is present Madhya Pradesh now, which has become present Madhya Pradesh after the independence. So he was the last 14th child to the couples Ramji Molasji Sakpal, who is the father, and Bhima Bai mother. So Ambedkar has born to a caste belong to Mahar, and his father has served and worked for British Army, and he has served as a soldier in the British India as such. And then his father has retired as a Subedar in the year 1894. There again they have moved to Satara, where uh, Bhimrao Ambedkar was enrolled in a local school, but in that school he was allowed to sit only on the floor because he coming from a untouchable and a downtrodden caste there. So those teachers in that time they did not touch his books as well. So at the age of 15 years old in the year 1906, Bhimrao has married to Ramabai. That girl was a 9-year-old girl. So after this, Bhimrao's mother has passed away, and after that, he has completed his matriculation examination from the Elphinstone High School in Bombay. After that, in the year 1912, he has graduated in political science and economics from Bombay University. And after that, in 1913, he has secured an MA with the subjects namely economic sociology, history, philosophy, anthropology, and politics, which is from Columbia University in New York. And after that, in the year 1916, he has left for London, where he has admitted in the Gray's Inn to study the law. And then after, there, his thesis, The Problem of Rupees, its origin and its solution, has become a very prominent one. And after his studies in the London School of Economics, he wrote his thesis on this. And after that, he has completed in the year 1923 DSc in Economics, and he had awarded with LLD from Columbia University. And from he also got D.Litt from Osmania University, Hyderabad in the year 1953. After that, he has worked as a professor, advocate, and a journalist and a legislator, and also an activist and a politician. He was also a member in the Bombay Legislative Council, and as also he has worked as a minister for the first independent India government at that time. And after that, in the year 1947, he was appointed as the first Minister of Law and Justice. And after, as Ambedkar's health was being worsened day by day, as he has suffered from diabetes and many health reasons, and also he has spent so much of restless days to make the constitution possible, and he has worked on the constitution so much rigorously that his health has been affected and he has been bedridden. And after that in the year during the year 1955 his health has become more worsened. In the year 1956, on 6th December, Bhimrao Ambedkar has passed away in the sleep. And after his, on the day of his cremation, many of the people, thousands of people, has converted into Buddhism at that time. So we know, as Bhimrao Ambedkar was a great writer as such, so he has written the following books from the year 1960 to the 1987. And if we see his books, which was got very prominence. So here we see the first book is Caste in India, the second is Russell Land, the construction of society, the problem of rupee, which was also his thesis, the evolution of provisional finance of British India, a study in the provisional decentralization of imperial finance. Next is the annihilation of caste. Next is federation versus freedom. Next, that was a lecture actually. The Ranade, Gandhi and the Jinnah, it was a memorial lecture as such. Next is the what Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchables. Then Thoughts on Linguistic States, 1945, Pakistan or Partition of India. Next, he has made a very significant book called Who Were Sudras. Next is the State and the Minorities. And next is History of India, Currency and Banking. And next is one of the eminent book, Who Were Shudras, How They Came to be the Fourth Varna in the Indo-Aryan Society. Next is the Untouchables, Who Were There and Why Were They Become Untouchables. Buddha or Karl Marx, the Buddha and Dhamma. So before him getting assassinated, he has written the Buddha and his Dhamma. So right after the completion of his Dhamma, he has closed his eyes. Next, we see revolution and counter-revolution in ancient India. Next is the riddles in Hinduism. So, after such, when we observe the contemporary conditions that were laid at the time of Buddha was, the society was very much caste-ridden society, and there was a discrimination based upon the caste and also the untouchability, which had made him a great philosopher in the modern Indian society. So, a lot of his works are inspired by the Lord Buddha, Kabir, and Jyotiba Phule. In the lesson of Jyotiba Phule, we have seen that Ambedkar has been greatly influenced by the works of Jyotiba Phule. And also, the Buddha's love for all and he being against the Chaturvarna system and his opinion has lies in the heart of man and not in the Shastras. This has influenced him to a very great extent there. And also, he being highly influenced by the Thomas Carlyle to understand the individual capabilities that are making towards history here. So his advocacy was in favor of thought, speech, and action. And also, J.S. Mill was influenced by him. So that's how Ambedkar has been emerged as a scholar, activist, and a philosopher because of his such a intellectual training and he being well much inspired by the Western philosophers. We understand the social thought of um, Ambedkar here. So his ideas are totally revolving around the understanding the dynamics, the changings of the caste system in India and how there has been an against the untouchability there. So Ambedkar has spoken about on the origin of caste system here. So there were many scholars prior to him. They have investigated into the how the caste system has originated and what are the origin of caste system here. But Ambedkar has here made a research, very unique scientific research here, and that has provided a racial basis. So when we see He has explained the caste system in his own way. He's saying that India, when seen in its historical perspective, it is a mixture of different clans. There are like many families, there are like many tribes that have been mixed up in India here. So, ancient India was a very popular mixture of clans, namely Aryans, Dravidians, Mongols, and the Scindians. So, they were at the nomadic stage, and these have entered into the Indian territory. And these clans have fought among themselves to overcome their cultural differences, and as a result, there have been would say they have been made up into several elements, and as such, uh, the culture disintegrated and the caste system has been evolved, and there was a hierarchical order into the Hindu society we observe here. Then again, what happened after the hierarchical order in the Hindu society? Marriages within its caste, not out of the caste, within its caste has laid a foundations here. And yes, as the hierarchical order prevailed, as the caste system came into existence, there become a caste dominant, and there was an increase in the marriage of the integral caste system. So no one was allowed to get married out of the caste there, and because of such, there was an oppression for the women, and there led a patriarchy. And after that, here in the origin of caste system, if we see, there was an endogamy that was prevailed, as they were not allowed to marry to the outer caste people, and there was a imposition for the exogamy as such. So here, to say, Ambedkar has considered exogamy, marrying outside the caste, as a survival for the tribal system, and it could represent the um, equivalent of the Indian Gotras. We know what are Gotras. For every Hindu society, in a Hindu family, there has been a Gotras. Gotras are the nothing but people belonging to the same clans. They have the so, but they said people who belong to the same Gotras, a Gotra or the Sapinda, are therefore from the same clan. So, in our Indian perspective, or in our Hindu society, people coming from same Gotra don't get married basically. But here, um, people of the same Gotras are from the same clans, is what he meant to say. And this has say that doesn't come cast as a unit, but it has been a collection among the 3000s that has formed up into the units as such. Next, his theory of untouchability. As the scene of being untouchable has greatly influenced him, that because of his rigorous work in the society today, we see there is no such untouchability, and the people who follow such are being penalized here. So when we see in his book published in the year 1948, The Untouchables Who Were There, so he had made a lot of study for the untouchable using his knowledge, and he said here, he had seen the knowledge and the practices of the different tribes and the races that are known, and he has described uh, everything based upon smritis, dharma, shastras, and other ancient books in this book. So here he is refusing the theories of untouchability that has prevailed in Indian society, that has came into existence because of the race here. And such occupations, whatever the occupations that a caste is doing, that has been led to the untouchables there. So here a man is believed that the foul or the defilement that has been caused by something when by the events like birth, marriage, cohabitation, and the death, believed in such the work that he is doing. So here we have to see the quoting from the Narada Smriti. He is proving that the Aryans who has the Aryans who have engaged themselves in the disgusting occupations, like the occupations where they like do all the cleaning works and the drainage works. So those were regarded occupations like scavenging, who cleans the toilets and who makes who later who cleans the litters and the trashes. So it is not for the Aryans people belonging to the Aryan clan. Whoever are there in the this occupation, they had the respectable position or the status there. So here he also rejected the theory that has been imposed as a result of being enslavement here. They have been treated as a slaves here. And here he is pointing out there were slaves in the ancient Roman Empire as such, and those Roman empires, instead of treating them as a slaves there, they have mastered them to get their education in them, and they have made them to practice the professions, something like a teachers or something like another profession. And also they were like he also gives the examples that there were also slaves in America who were never treated as the untouchables here. So he is rejecting the racial theory that is based upon the Aryan invasion theory of untouchability here. So here he found two reasons for the origins of untouchability. One is conversion into Buddhism, and the second is eating the beef here. So what happened? The broken men. Who were the broken men? So one small rumor that has been spread by the Brahmins against those who are Buddhists. The first one, conversion of the Buddhism, is been related to the contempt being spread by the Brahmins, and the second is the habit of eating beef is being practiced by the broken men. Ultimately, who the broken men here are the untouchables. So here, he is saying that this untouchability has came up into existence at the period of Gupta Empire, and at that period there was a mass reconversion of people from Buddhism to the Hinduism at that time. And people, especially the broken people who continued to practice this Buddhism, they were treated with hate, and they hated the newly converted Hindus here, especially by the priest of the Brahmins class. So here he has interpreted the notion of broken men here, that they have been hated by the Brahmins because they are the enemies of the Buddhism. And these Brahmins, because of such hate, they have imposed untouchability upon those broken men because they are not leaving the Buddhism there. And as such, it was only the root of untouchability that has been lied in the hatred, and it has created Brahmins against those who are like Buddhas there. But the broken people here, when he has found the two ways, one is the conversion, and the second is the people eating. So this broken people have continued to eat the beef even after that because of this practices that has been done up by the Brahmins there. Next, his very famous annihilation of caste. This annihilation of caste, actually it was about a lecture that he was to be said in the Jatpat Todak Mandal, that's an organization of Lahore in the year 1936, where they invited Dr. B.R. Ambedkar to address the conference on the on the topic of caste system in India, where he has sent this speech titled The Annihilation of Caste, where the organizing committee has found that it is a very criticism to the Vedas, and it has inclining to leave the Hindu fold such, and that has been very unacceptable. Whereas Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has boldly replied that he would not change a single comma. How the speech is, it will remains the same. But He could not deliver the speech, but he has published this speech in the year 1936 in the month of May. So here, if we see, this infamous Manusmriti has dehumanized the Shudras and the untouchables, which has been ruling the Hindus' mindset for centuries, and that has created very great obstacles for eradicating the caste system here. So this made Ambedkar publicly burn the Manusmriti here on the occasion of the Mahat Satyagraha in the 1927, and where he has been establishing the right for untouchables. So there was a scene that happened where was one of the untouchables were not allowed to drink the water from the tank there, and this had made Ambedkar angry, and he had openly burnt up the Manusmriti in the Mahat town in Maharashtra, and it has become a great right for untouchables to drink the water of the chowder tank in the Mahat town. So here Ambedkar is arguing that there are no scientific basis on this Chaturvarna system. So here, if we see, he says that to annihilate, if we have to annihilate, we have to destroy the caste system. The real method that Ambedkar has introduced is to destroy the religious notions, because those practices, those notions that are based upon shastras and religious texts are misinterpreting the people here. So that's what he has rejected the shastra there, and he had made a practice from them to annihilate this caste system from day to day life from the Indian society. So he has given the following suggestions here. Um, in the eradication of caste system, he says the dignity behind the caste and the shastras, it should be that are which are being sanctioned. It must be destroyed. The things that have been mentioned that it is there in the shastras, it is there in the caste system. The things, the notion that has to be destroyed, and there must be a the caste scaling should be abolished. As the caste system is based on the hierarchy, it should be abolished. And the inter caste marriages should be encouraged here. And there must be a only one standard book of Hindu religion which should be acceptable for all. And the priesthood, because of this priesthood only, we have tend to see there was a caste system and the Brahmins ill-treated the downtrodden. So that priesthood should be abolished, and there must be an state examination for that priesthood he preached for. And it should be made penal for a person who has no sanad, or the sanad is nothing but your certificate or the degree, who being put up as a priest here. It should be legalized. So priest should be the servant of the state, and he should be like other civil servants that we have. He should be like a state servant to the state, and he must be paid by the state like other civil servants or the other government employees get paid. And as such, um, there must be a disciplinary action that to be taken up by the state in the matter of the morals, if he is dismoralizing the beliefs in the forms of worship here. The ultimate is to bring up the law of the land here, the original law of the ordinary law of the land. And here also the priest should be limited by law is what he says. Based upon according to the requirements of the states, like other civil servants, how there will be a requirement, and here also there must be a limitation to be paced up here he says. And he was in view that Brahmanism is a kind of poison here, and that poison has spoiled the Hinduism, and only it can be saved by killing the Brahmanism here, is what he has made us understand in his annihilation of caste. So there only by killing such kind of mindset, then only there can be an annihilation of caste, is what he meant to say. Next we see political thought of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar here. The thought of political Ambedkar, it is a body of organized and a very systematic way. So he has expressed his views in the form of very numerous statements, speeches, books, and the monographs here. So he has considered state as a very essential human organization here. And he has set three important objectives. A state should be originated, flourished, and existent. So he says that the state should be originated, it should be preserved. It should preserve the freedom, happiness, and the independence of the individuals. So it should take up the top priority for the obligations that are the demands that are there in the sphere, like defense, external affairs, finance and regulation of business, trade, and commerce. So these are the top priorities that a state should follow. And next is the state should fulfill the judicial obligations he met. He was here with a view that they must act without showing a discrimination between the individuals on the grounds of what? On the grounds of caste, color, creed, community, here, and the state should maintain law and order. Next is the state must see that the individuals are living a life where there is no fear, tension, and uncertainties. Because of such untouchability and the caste system, there were like many uncertainties at the time that prevailed. So he wanted the state to have every individual to lead their life without fear, tension, and he wanted to consider the state as a prime servant and the trustee of the people. So here he has regarded the state as the main instrument for the people's welfare here, and as such he has introduced the concept of democracy here. He says that uh, Ambedkar's philosophy here can be explained in two of his arguments, that the rights should not are like protected not only by law, but also it should be protected by the moral and the social conscience of the society, and that should have a democratic form of government that is presupposing a democratic form of society, because we tend to see a people's participation there. So he considering here that democracy is very essential as a form of society here. So here he is not only defining democracy as a form of government, but it is nothing but a way of life which has certain principles and the characters of a society here. And here he felt that it is only possible to treat all citizens equally, even though we cannot give the absolute equality, but people can be treated equally here. But he also felt that this democracy, it varies from time to time and according to the conditions, the contemporary conditions that laid up in the society. So here he is saying that for the success of working of democracy, he has established six important points where there must be the absence of inequalities in the society, and there must be a responsible opposition. When there is a prevalent of the responsible opposition, there can be a raise of questions against the people in the power. They can be the voice of the people. When there is a responsible opposition, it might work for the welfare of the people. And there must be a rule of law, and there must be constitutional morality. There must be people who must be faithful uh, co- towards the constitution, and it should be observed by the rulers, and there should be a dominance of the majority. There should not be a dominance, there should be an absence of majority over the minority people, because the majority people can easily dominate the minority people here, and there must be a popular acceptance and the popular support on a very great basis, on a very large context basis. There must be a popular acceptance, and there must people, citizens or the people should accept, and there must be a support from the lot of people. Next, we see the social democracy. So, on 25th November 1949, Dr. Ambedkar has gave up a last speech in the Constitution Assembly. He is saying in the speech that he has warned India not to just remain silent, not to just be remain in order with the political democracy, but they must strive for social democracy here. Because as society, if we as a society, if we are denying the equality in our social and the economic life, so it can one day it would become a threat to our democracy. So where on 26th January 1950, as India was going to enter and opting for the constitution. So here in politics, they must be have the equality, and in politics we will have equality. But when we see in social and economic life, we will not have such equality. Only we have is inequality. So here he is saying that in our social and the economic life, for any reason of our social and economic structure, they must continue to deny the people of one man and one value, right? Because in the society, we are collective. We are not of our own one man and one value. We should be go hand in hand with the society. So as so he says, till how long will we live in this life of contradictions, in this life of upside downs here? So he said that this contradictions should be removed at the earliest possible, and they have to build up, and then that would, and he said the social democracy is the very base for the political democracy here. Because as a society, we being equally treated, we being equally valued, we see with a equal notion, then only they can be a political development, then only can be a political democracy be seen and observed under the Ambedkar views. Next, he talks about the parliamentary democracy. Parliamentary democracy, he talks that it is a best suitable form of government, and here he has said that it is, as Ambedkar is tilting towards the presidential form of government, and he believed that only the presidential form of government can safeguard the freedom, integrity, and the independence of the people here. And also, he has agreeing with the views of Alexander Pope's theory. So there is an idea that the power usually it corrupts, right? So the absolute, the total power corrupts. When there is a total power, when there is a whole of the power, it corrupts absolutely, yes, to the contemporary conditions there. So he has concentrated on the elements of the allocation of power and the decentralization and the balance of the union and state here. So on the whole, he has suggested that the parliamentary form of government is the very ideal one and the realistic one, and where he has said that this parliamentary form of government, it is not new in India, as its origin can be traced back in the ancient period where the Buddhist text Mahaparini Nibbana, it had contained many verses where they used to practice the ballot papers in the ancient India with the name of Salapatrika Grahakas. So ballot papers that we still have, the ballot system that we follow in our voting system in today day. So they he has explained the parliamentary form based on the three essential requirements. He says that they must be absent of hereditary rule and they must be a popularly elected people. There must be a presence. People should elected and there should not be a hereditary rule who is coming after one after one after one. No, people should get the election done. And the legislation and the administration process should be carried by the people's representatives, the MLAs, the CMs, the uh, PMs, the ministers, whoever. Those are the people's representatives. And the elections should be conducted on the regular intervals. So here, seeing with the above view, here are three requisites here that he said that above three were not that sufficient for the survival of parliamentary form of government here. And he has these say that government requires two main pillars. These are related to the presence of the responsible opposition. When the opposition is very responsible with its duty, it can tend to have more strengthening of the independent, and it could have the free political life. Means they are not been uh, into the limitations where they can free and precisely they can elaborate, they can see a kind of checks and balances. Next, there must be a free, fair, and the impartial elections, because by this there must be a adult franchise, there must be a process of adult franchise that should be given by the citizens. Now we see the economic thought of Dr. Ambedkar here. He is talking about the caste and economic development here. So as he has been a doctorate in the economics here. So one such thing we have to see that he has stressed that there must be an investment in the agriculture, because our India is a land of agriculture, where agriculture being a prominent sources of revenue, and he wanted to have such investment in the agriculture as a primary industry. So he has advocated, as we know, the Reserve Bank of India, it was set up based on the recommendations of the Hilton Young Commission 1926. So this commission actually it was conceptualized, it was taken on the guidelines of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's book, The Problem of Rupee, Its Origin and Its Solution. Based upon that, it was RBI, there was the RBI that was established in the year 1934, 1935 on 15th April. So as such, we see the 1934 Act here. So here we see the administration and finance of East India Company, the evolution of provisional finance in British India, the problem of the rupee, its origin. So the first two are signifying, the first one is evaluating the finances of the then East India Company during the period 1792 to 1858, and the second book is analyzing the evolution of center-state financial relations that were there in British India during the period 1833 to 21 here. Third is a magnum opus in economics, and it is telling about the contribution of field of monetary economics here. So as such, he also struggled against the prevailing land tenure system that was called as Koti there, and he was successful against this agitation. Mahar Vatan liberated, and he presented a bill in the state assembly which was aiming at the preventing of the malpractices that the moneylenders are hurt, but that the moneylenders are doing towards the poor people there. So here in the year 1936, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has founded the Independent Labour Party here. So here we see Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's attack on the caste system. It does not only aimed at challenging the hegemony of the upper caste here, but also it has a broader connection with the economic growth and development here as such. So he wanted to say that the caste system, it has reduced the mobility of the labor because people were ill-treated. And subsequently it has been affecting the capital there, and it is obstructing the economic growth and development in India. So Ambedkar here has laid up a very good strategy for the India's economic development. The strategy that was placed like an it is an obligation that a state that has to plan for economic life, which are on the lines that the highest point of the productivity that we are gaining from the economy. It it's like a without being, without closing the every doors, the every avenue of the private enterprise, and should also provide the equal distribution of wealth here. Then only there can be an economic development. So state socialism. So here Ambedkar has believed in a classless society. He only wanted a classless society, not a stateless society. So in his book States and Minorities, he had said that an obligation on the state plan, the one we have already said, that the state should provide the equal distribution of wealth here, and it should not obstruct the productivity to private enterprises as such. So here Ambedkar in the above in this book, he has mentioned and he has advocated for the state ownership of the agricultural land. So state should own few of the agricultural sector, and there must be a collectivized method of cultivation there, and there must be a limitation on the control of industries like heavy industries and the public large industry. So here we see the concept of state socialism on the three basic tenets. So he says that the state ownership of agricultural land, and it is the key industries. The main industries should meet up for the demands for the poor strata. There should not be the main important industries should be encouraged up, and they must be given that ownership here. And there must be a maintenance of the productivity by the productive sources by the state, and there must be a proper distribution of the produce among those different peoples, and there must be no differentiation between the caste and the creed here. So he has played up a very nice role in the economic affairs of the country for its development here as such. So here, a very noble laureate Professor Amartya Sen, he said that in his own words, as he being very much into Ambedkar, he being very much into the studies of economy, and he has made so much for the economic development. He is regarding Ambedkar here as his father in economics here. And Amartya Sen is saying that Ambedkar is a very much champion for the underprivileged because he has done so much for the downtrodden caste here. So, whatever the works he has done in the field of economics are remembered forever. So, the concept of new social order. So, here the new social order, he was a follower and he wants in a view of a new social order. He viewed that these social problems like caste, untouchability, democracy, and that has made up an constitution that made up a base for his socio-political ideas. Because of such, his philosophy has been emerged. So here, um, his pragmatism, his way of dealing, his dealing and his idealism has prompted that him to work for the new social order that should be based upon social justice. As such, he is a great supporter of socialism. So he says that there must be a new social order based upon the social justice here. So that new social order, a society should be based upon the liberty, equality, and fraternity. Then only it can bring up a change in one part or the another, right? So after such, there must be, as a society, as Ambedkar has argued, that a society which is based on fraternity, it not only makes the democracy possible. See, for Ambedkar, this government, this democratic government, is a way of life. It is not just a form of life. So here he is making it as a mode that is being associated with the experience, and it is an attitude or the respect towards the fellow man. So here in the democracy, if we see, it is the choice of every individual to have their own profession that they want to follow. So equality, see, total equality is not that possible. The absolute equality is not possible, but equal treatment is possible. No. So since uh, caste and untouchability goes, then only he demanded that the caste, if it negate such ideas, then only he demanded that caste and untouchability should be abolished totally. And he also argued that Hindus observe caste more than being that they are human here, because the followings that are there in their religion, because of the shastras that are there in the Hindus here. And then that taught those people instead of being a human here. So these people who are blindly these people who are just religiously minded are so following or been observing it blindly he what he says, because without being a rationality there, because being a reason, they are just into the orthodox nature of the religion, right? So he says that they must be a interdine, people should dine within other people, and there must be a intercaste marriage, and without anybody telling him or who to do so. He also called upon the people to disobey the unscientific and the inhuman and the unsocial, which is not according to the society, to disobey such shastras here. And these people, when they knowing the rationality behind such, they must deny the authority like Buddha and Guru Nanak did towards the shastras here. So here we see Ambedkar has a vision of a society where the social barriers that are there between the man and the woman are should be demolished here. And the man, he must be measured by his worth, not by his birth. And there must be a equality between man that has to be pursued. And for him, democracy, as we already said, it is not a form of government, but it is a way of life where only there can be a social justice can be established. So, for the successful democracy, there should be no inequalities in the society. So, when there is a political democracy, democracy when political democracy can be established only there are when there is an absence of economic and the social justice here. It means that it should reduce the disparities of the wealth and income more and high among the people here. So this safeguards for making the condition, there must be evolutions that should be observed here, that should make the condition for the oppressed caste in India. And this should safeguard for the scheduled castes to have their ripple in their future here as such. And these people and the people, the safeguards, it should be a permanent rights that has to be observed here. And yes, when there is a depressed classes should be given the protection here until and unless their goals and welfare of the states are being achieved. So here we see that Ambedkar, he has made a great contribution for the society, for the shaping of the depressed classes as such. His ideology, educating until the struggle for human dignity and equality, has made up a new perception. So the life and mission of the Ambedkar here is a source of inspiration for everybody for creating a new social significance here. And also, if we see, Ambedkar has sought to secure here the social justice for the depressed classes of the Indian society that was based upon the thus so depressed classes that are a base of the caste stratification. So here, for securing the social justice, Ambedkar is holding a vision that he is than any other ideology. It should globalize the but the it has to oppress. So here it holds up a more vision here than any other ideology as such. So here we tend to see he has done a lot to the society within the annihilation of the caste for the democracy and what not more than for the people here. So this is about the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar here.
సార్ టైం అయిపోయింది సార్. సార్
Hello?
టైం అయిపోయింది మేడం.
Okay, done. I'm done.
ఓకే.